Hey everyone, welcome to Lady Overlander Radio. Tonight we're speaking with Azure O'Neil. Stay tuned. Grab your favorite drink, whether it's a coffee, cocktail, or tea, and get ready. It's Ladies' Night on Lady Overlander Radio. The Lady Overlander Radio podcast is sponsored by Frontrunner Outfitters, Midland Radio, Go Treads, Sport Keg, CB Adventure Supply, Adventure Trail Outfitters, Overland Spices, and the More Expo. Hey Arla, hey girl, hey.
Hey girl, hey.
How you doing?
I'm doing. How you doing?
Good.
How
Good.
you doing?
A little windy last couple days. A little crazy here.
Is it hot up
And
there?
it's-
I always want to talk about
No.
the weather because it's so freaking hot down here.
It's like 80.
Oh, 98.
I'm at elevation. Sorry.
I am not.
You're down the valley.
I'm not in elevation. I want to be in elevation.
Yeah, I'm in my little cabin up on the hill here, so I like it.
She's
Yeah.
about 2.5 hours west of me in the mountains,
Sounds lovely.
and there is
East
a
of you.
18-degree swing.
Yeah, I'm happy I'm not in Florida right now, and I'm happy I'm not where you are right now. No offense.
It's
Too
awful.
hot and muggy. Yeah.
Awful, humid, nasty. I need
Okay,
some fall
so
weather. I'm ready.
I know you are. We got a few more things to get through before the fall weather, though. So, what's our next expo or whatever on our schedule?
Our next expo is something called, what's it called? Overland Expo Mountain West.
Yes.
You ever heard of that?
Oh,
No,
Is there
I don't
any
think
heard
she's
of
heard of
that?
that.
well, I don't know. Sounds like a great place to be.
It is in Colorado.
We'll
It
be
is
there.
in Colorado.
We're excited. So,
Really?
we'll
That's
be doing a
August
ladies.
25th through the 27th, correct? Yes, ma'am.
That's right.
Yes.
Let's
And we'll
go.
be doing some ladies stuff there, lots of classes and all kinds of cool things. So we're excited about that.
Yes, indeed.
And then we've got what's next? Big
Teton
Iron?
Overland
Oh,
Show,
Teton Overland Show. Yep.
September 15th through the 17th. Then we
This is why I
have,
have her keep the schedule because I never remember.
I'm doing this by memory. That's pretty impressive for my age. I just want to throw that out there. Then we have Big Iron. That's at
Yep.
the end of September, I think the 28th, 29th
Mhm.
on that one. And then we got
Rendezvous.
Rendezvous in the Ozarks.
Does that wrap up our? Oh no.
No, we have East. Something called
That doesn't-
Expo,
East.
Overland Expo East or something. Have you all heard of that?
Yeah.
That's in there too.
I think we need some pretty
That's in
solid.
the October. It's
here.
busy from right meow till the end of October
Into November also.
and into
Just-
November.
We'll talk offline about that later, but there's a whole like SEMA situation
See, this is what she does.
in the works.
Oh, do you have time to talk? I gotta talk to you. And I know when she says that she has for sure booked something or did something, and she's gonna ask for forgiveness later. That is
Yeah.
the Misty way.
Pretty much.
That's her way.
That's how it goes.
Any hootie. Hey, Amy.
Hey, Amy. Hey, girl. Hey. Hey, Teddy.
Hey.
Teddy and JoJo. They're in Kentucky. Amy's here in Arkansas.
She's sweating too.
She's sweating too. I'm sure of it.
She's sweating too.
Yes. But that's not why
Who's
we're
with us
here.
today? Who's with us today?
We're not talking about Amy sweating anymore. We're talking about Azure. So,
It's pretty sweaty here, so I feel it, Amy.
yeah, she's feeling your pain, Amy.
Sweating.
So why don't you take a little moment to introduce yourself to the audience and to the people watching at home and tell us a little background on you.
All right, sure. My name is Azure O'Neil. I am from Vermont, born and raised, and I grew up there. Went to school in Washington, D.C., launched my travels, like extensive travels. I had kind of done the tourist thing prior but in 2011, moved to Australia to kind of kick off some round the world travels, and came back to the US for a solid stint in 2016 and began working for Overland Expo, that little event that you mentioned, in 2017. I was their director of operations for a period of time, and then an opportunity opened up to become their director of educational programming. So I absolutely love my job. I feel so fortunate that I get to say that. But when I get to work with incredible women like yourselves and help provide platforms for really just remarkable people to share their travels, their inspiration, their wisdom, it's just kind of, for me, the next best thing to still being on the road full time overlanding. So it's kind of my elevator pitch. Does that work?
Yeah, I like it. It's good.
It's good. It's good.
It's really good. I like it. So we had Roseanne on last week. I don't know if you were able to catch it, but she came on and talked to us about how she got the whole idea for Overland Expo and kind of founded that, and about her travels and experiences. And so to me, would you say she was kind of like a mentor at all to you, or did you kind of have that kind of collaborative relationship with her when she owned it?
Yeah, I mean, Roseanne is just a powerhouse of a human being. I've been very fortunate in my career since my early 20s to work for and with just phenomenal women who lead by example 100%. And Roseanne was incredible to work with. I just felt so fortunate when I came back to the US after traveling. I felt very lost. And I think a lot of people who travel full time, when they kind of get back into the real world, experience that a little bit. And Roseanne she was like a lifeboat. And she was a lifeboat that happened to be like carrying the coolest event that I had ever been to. And I had been in the event industry prior to, launching my travels. And she was just an incredible person to work with. I loved her dedication to the community. And there were a lot of things that Roseanne did behind the scenes that no one will ever know about, that just really lifted up the community and ensured that people could continue traveling and sharing the way that they did. So yeah, I'm lots of love for Roseanne and Jonathan.
Yes, awesome people for sure. Really glad they started the Expo series, and I'm glad it's still going, even though they've kind of passed it along, then they've kind of parted ways. They're still pretty involved. I saw them at West, and I think we'll see them at West again, probably, most likely. So
yeah, I mean, I imagine it's kind of their baby, yes, it's flown the coop, but it's still their baby, and they're such an integral part of the community. So whenever I can rope them into coming and teaching and just being present, we all love having them there.
It's a win.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell us a little more about what's a typical work day look like for you? What before an expo? Like,
well,
do you need to grab some wine before we talk about
it's funny. Part of the reason why I have this really attractive screen up behind me is that part of my job is scheduling, and I am like 100% an analog girl. I do not like spreadsheets, and spreadsheets are unfortunately like a huge part of my job. So I have a wall with the entire schedule matrix, and I basically have like hundreds of tiny pieces of paper that I will move around depending on, who can teach when, what I think a good flow for the schedule would be, the build from like, introductory level classes to advanced. So before shows, it's just a flurry of emails, both from the content creator and showcase DIY area folks, and then also my instructors, and just, lining everything up, trying to make sure everyone has what they need, and making sure we can, get the right people in the right places when we have gaps in the schedule, whether it's, for example, mapping. I just had someone have to cancel because of a vehicle issue. So just kind of, trying to find someone to pinch hit and teach a class about like Gaia and Onyx and stuff like that. So it's kind of, I would say, the most typical day of leading up to. And then, when we're in off season, if I can not be attached to my computer for a chunk of the day, I love that. But living in Florida, I try to start off with paddleboarding in the morning before hitting those emails, and then a walk at night because it is pretty nice here. But when I'm traveling, I kind of just always have a laptop and a phone with me, and we'll just have a little mobile office on the go and make that work. And then there's not really a day in the life look. But
Well, I saw you at Pacific Northwest, and I saw you here and there and on a golf cart over here and then talking to somebody over there, and you look like you probably burn like 6,000 calories a day there.
I have no idea how many calories I burn at PNW. I just think there was like no chance of burning anything because I couldn't move more quickly than a sloth there. It was so hot. But it's a lot of fun. And there's, I think one of the things about Overland Expo that I have a love-hate relationship with is just the FOMO, because it's like I had an incredible conversation with just a really interesting gentleman who's one of our exhibitors, but just has an incredible travel resume. And I was chatting with him for like a half an hour, and I was just like, I don't think I've done this at an Overland Expo in years, but it was just one of those things where everything was calm and quiet and I could do it. But I realized that in chatting with him, I missed the opportunity to like catch the last 5 minutes of a class I wanted to check in on. So just, you got to kind of be, all over the place, but it's
everywhere at once. Yeah.
Fun. Yeah.
Pretty much. Wow. So then when Expo East is over in October, when do you have to start gearing up for West again? Because West is the first event of the year now. So, and that's the big boy.
Yeah. So we pretty much immediately start gearing up.
Okay. I figured.
The thing with Overland Expo is we're all pretty A-type, and we are all a little bit obsessed with perfection, and that's impossible in the event industry, and we all recognize that. But we'll basically start planning for the next year before East even wraps. This year I get a little tiny bit of a buy because Eva Rupert and I are participating in the Rebel. So I know, I'm so excited.
Jealous.
I'm super pumped. We are super pumped. But I'll probably have to miss the last day of East and fly out for that and then go dark. And hopefully they'll give me a couple of days to recover once I come back. But we'll definitely we start launching ticket sales, and there are a lot of things that go with that have to be kind of put in place beforehand. So we really try to dial in, the feedback that we get from all of those surveys that everyone so kindly fills out to let us know where we can improve and what they liked. So we'll incorporate that, kind of starting as soon as we can for some things, but definitely in September, October, we're already planning for 2024.
Nice.
So Eva Rupert, who's going to be the driver?
Eva.
So you're Nav, huh?
And I'm Nav. So we're cross training because we both feel like I think we'll be better teammates to one another if we have a good idea of what the other is handling and capable of. And it's also just always nice to be able to, I think, double check, certainly on the navigation side, but also, if I'm trying to direct her around some gnarly terrain, it'll be helpful for me to kind of have a good understanding. So we've been cross training for the past few months, and it's been going well, but very, very excited. We're definitely the most nervous about the navigation part.
Oh yeah.
I don't blame you. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. What team number are you?
142.
142.
42. I like it.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Very cool.
Yeah, we haven't finalized our team name yet. We were going to go with 2 wheels too many because we're both motorcyclists who are like
awesome.
not, used to having 4 wheels. But then someone was like, "Oh, that kind of sounds negative," and we're like, "Oh gosh, we didn't even look at it that way." But so we're still working on it. But
I liked it.
I liked it. You should definitely do that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll see. We're really excited. We have an awesome colleague who is supporting us and letting us take his Land Cruiser. So his daughter names all of his vehicles. And so we were kind of like, all right, well, if she gives this truck a really cool name, then we might have to be whatever that team is. So we'll see.
Ooh, okay. we'll have to stay tuned to find out what the name ends up being.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
Thanks.
So mentally, that's going to be a lot of long days, a lot of
Yes.
little sleep.
Yeah.
That worry you at all? Or are you good?
I think what worries me the most is going straight to that after an East, because usually by the time we come to East, we're just pretty tapped. I mean, you know how big Overland Expos are. I'm an ambivert. So by the end of like an Overland Expo, I usually need a day or two to recover. Fortunately, like Eva and we get one another really well. So she understands that I'll probably need like a day or two of low activity. But no, I think the long days are just part and parcel. We did one of the Rebel U trainings, and I think they give us like 5 navigation points, and we were finished by like 3 p.m. But by 1 o'clock, Eva and I were brain dead. Like I couldn't have been asked to add 2 and 2. Like I was like, and we're going to get like what, 18 or 20 waypoints some days. I'm like, this is going to be pretty full on. So we definitely know that it's going to be extreme and type 2 fun, but we're looking forward to that. And
that's awesome. Yeah. Well, we'll definitely track you guys and provide updates on all of our social media on where you guys are at. That's awesome.
There's several ladies that are competing this year.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Quite a few.
I think it'll be a great crew. We're excited. So we're kind of like our goals so far after that, that Rebel U day, we were like, okay, before noon, we want to do the best we can do. If we can, hit some blues and blacks, that'll be great. But afternoon, we just want to hit the greens and not die in the desert. Like that's
a great plan.
Yeah. Not dying in the desert is always a good plan.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So,
wow.
Those are our goals. And to be good teammates to one another and everyone else, of course.
Not kill each other.
Yeah.
Have the right kind of snacks in the car so you don't kill each other about snacks.
Yeah. We are definitely all over the snack game.
Yeah.
I have to say, like
Snackle box. The Snackle box.
Yes.
Yeah.
I have to say, like the women who we've both spoken with, some who were competing like this year and previous competitors have just been incredible in terms of just support and encouragement. And that has been really awesome to see. It's definitely, I understand it's a competition, but it hasn't, and I know it'll feel like that certainly. And I'm sure there will be moments where it's pretty full on in that regard. But it hasn't like felt like that. It's felt really collaborative, which has been very cool. So
nice.
I think it's great that I mean, we've talked to many past rebels, current rebels,
future ones
are doing it for the first time.
Yeah.
And everybody seems very willing to, kind of impart wisdom if they can and collaborate and just talk through things. So, I mean, I think it's a pretty great event. We were supposed to do it this year, but we had to withdraw. But we're very excited for everybody else that is doing it. We're rooting for all of you, and we'll be watching it closely because we'll be having, envy, a little envy.
Might be crying on the sideline. That's okay.
Yeah. We might be sitting on Arla's couch just following it on our phones, eating popcorn or something, being sad.
Well, I'll look forward to cheering you guys on when you're out there. And who knows if we, don't die in the desert. And
God,
our friend Mark Farage is keen to help us out again with his truck and everything else. Maybe we'll be able to compete out there with you and, I don't know, dig you out of the sand or vice versa.
Yeah.
Thumb up.
Yeah, we don't want to die in the desert either, but yeah. And Arla definitely needs snacks. That's the big thing for her.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yep. That's why I said snacks. That's not a joke.
No.
She's like, how are we going to sleep and where are we going to have snacks? And I'm like, okay,
what's
those are your big priorities.
Let's talk about that. Yeah.
I totally get
that. Then I'll figure the rest. I'll figure it out. It's good to go. I was going to drive. She's going to navigate.
Okay.
That's the plan.
Okay. So if that's the case, then you also need to be prepared to feed Arla, right? The snacks.
Yes.
Like that's.
Yeah, might bite my fingers.
Driving. Yeah.
a little worried if she gets hangry.
It's not good.
I know.
She's an assertive driver without hunger. So
Yep. Maybe some of those goo packs, that might be good. In a pinch,
Yeah.
you can just like kind of squirt it.
Squirted at
in
her.
the general direction.
Calm down over there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great.
Don't bite me. Anyway.
Now we may do it. We still it's still in the back of both of our minds. We're throwing it around. So
Right.
Yep.
it's as you know, it's a big commitment. It's a lot of money, and it's I think the thing that we're both worried about is both of us are working on getting ourselves into a little bit better health. So then that's one of the reasons why we had to withdraw. So we had some health things, both of us, that we had to kind of rein in because we ain't little spring chickens anymore. So
we old.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that, but it is definitely, I mean, when I was reading through, the rule book and some guidelines, it was like, oh, that's,
it's a lot. So
yeah, that's a wise.
I'd hate to get all the way there and then not even remotely be able to handle it because of things that are kind of out of our control. So, but we love the Rebel. We love all the Rebels, and we will definitely be supporting for sure because you guys are awesome.
Well, cool. Thank you. Yeah. And I hope your circumstances allow you guys to compete in the future.
That would be great.
Yep.
But let's talk a little bit about, before we came on live, you were telling us a little bit about how you used to be into wine and winemaking and things like that. So why don't you tell the audience about your winemaking background? Because that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Sure. Okay. So when I was in my 20s, after I graduated from school in Washington, D.C., I was working there for a few years. And I always had a side hustle. I worked in the restaurant industry for a while. And then I started pouring wine at these incredible tasting events that this gentleman in DC, who was like the go-to guy for all of the embassies, like all of the big swanky government parties, all of the private fundraisers. He was like the guy people got the wine from. And he really loved supporting young career women. And I know that sounds a little creepy, but he was probably one of the most I know he was probably one of the most ardent feminists I've ever met, and just a really lovely human being. And he became a mentor for me, and I began working more exclusively with him than this huge group of girls. But he would, we would do these events. He would send us home with bottles of wine that were partially open for us to finish, usually one or two bottles that were still full. And, I was in my mid-20s at that point. So my wine budget was
low,
the lower shelves at Whole Foods, So it was these were already amazing experiences. And then he would also take us out for dinner afterwards and would open, a $500, $600, $800 bottle of wine at dinner. So it was just these incredible experiences that just opened my eyes to just that part of the wine industry that I'd never been, familiar with. And after about a year of working with him, he sat me down one day after we did an event, and he was like, "You don't really seem like you're the DC type." And I was like, what do you want to do? And at that point, I'd already been applying for jobs, abroad, because I just wanted to travel. I wanted to get out of DC. I loved the city and I loved my friends there, but I just saw a lot of them making decisions that were making them less happy. Sorry?
A little funner.
Yeah. And it was just kind of okay, I want to do something different. And just nothing had panned out. And he asked me, if I had ever thought about making wine. And I was like, no. I went to school for anthropology and psychology. And he was like, well, what do you think about working a wine harvest in Australia? I have a friend who would probably hire you. And I was like, okay. So he sends an email that day to a guy named Matt Wenck, who at that time was one of the best winemakers in Australia, and asked if he had any room. And if his harvest crew, in 2011, this was late 2010. And 2 days later, I had a confirmed position on the harvest crew for Two Hands Wines, which is, remains one of my favorite producers to this day. And within 2 months, I had packed up my life in DC, and I was on a plane to Australia and had no idea what it meant to make wine, but learned very quickly. And it was at that point the hardest I'd ever worked, and probably still to this day, other than a few Overland Expos. It's the hardest I've ever worked. And but it's just a miracle. The process of making wine is incredible. And I loved almost every minute of it, even the minutes where there were big spiders and snakes and whatnot.
Oh, no.
I'm out.
Yeah, no, it wasn't not super fun. I had the first day on the job, a big part of making wine is cleaning. And we were, washing everything down with hoses and power washing everything. And this French, guy comes up to me, one of my coworkers. We'd known one another for like a day at that point, and he didn't speak any English. And he just comes up to me and he goes, and he was pointing at my forehead and just trying to say something. And I go like this, and a white tip spider like drops to the floor. And white tips, if they bite you, like either you get super lucky and nothing happens. Option 2 is you're like in the worst pain of your life for days. And option 3 is necrosis of the skin. So those
are good.
I work on the job, and I'm like,
oh my God,
under my face. But anyway,
I'm sorry. I'm gonna leave. I'm gonna need to give my notice. This isn't for me.
Yeah,
sorry.
It was gnarly.
Wow.
But despite that, I fell in love with it, and I wound up getting, deciding that I wanted to stay in Australia and not return to Washington, D.C. Very good call. I'm very happy with that call. I bought a Toyota Camry from one of my coworkers at the winery. And after we finished harvest, I just decided I was going to drive around Australia. And at that point, I think we all called it car camping, but I mean, car camping and overlanding at this point are pretty close. And it's always, whenever we're at an Overland Expo and people are, waxing poetic about how you have to have, X car with X capability, I'm like, you
do not.
I did Gibb River Road in Australia with a Toyota Camry and in a mini skirt, which was a questionable decision, probably more so than the Toyota Camry.
You're a baddie. You're a baddie.
But anyway, but that was great. And that really launched my travels. And as I was on my way around Australia, I also scuba dive and stopped at a dive site and met the guy who I traveled with for many years after that. So it wound up being a wonderful experience. And I looped back to work in many wineries after that. And it really provided me a way to continue working while I was traveling. So I basically traveled from wine region to wine region for the following 6 years, really.
Gosh, that sounds terrible.
It was
I don't know how you survived.
Sorry.
I will tell you, the biggest problem was that it's really difficult to fit a case of wine on a motorcycle.
You figured it out, didn't you?
Yes. I also figured
out. Do you really need that many clothes? I mean,
no.
Exactly.
Water.
No. Overrated.
Motorcycle parts, that was when it was like, spare part, spare tube. Okay.
Extra set of clothes? Nah.
All that other stuff can just be gone. Wine has to make it.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a picture here. Let's see here.
Let's see.
Tell us what is going on in this picture here.
Oh.
Yes.
So this is kind of a longer story, but it's one of my favorite photos because of the story. So I'll just buckle you down for that. I'll keep it as short as I can. But one of the things that I learned while traveling was that to pay attention to flow. And there's, psychologists will talk about flow state. I never really bought into it until it started happening to me. And I started understanding, okay, when I'm paying attention to things and there are little signs, I need to pay closer attention. Mm-hmm. And what I mean by that is if things seem to be going wrong or things just aren't working out, it's kind of there's a reason why. And just maybe just chill, take a step back, relax. And this is a lesson I learned over and over and over in my travels. I learned it in a couple of ways that were really hard and painful. But in this circumstance, we were traveling in the Guajira Peninsula of Colombia. It is in the southeast kind of corner of the country. Okay. And they don't really speak Spanish. They speak, what is it called? I'm not even going to botch it, but they speak like basically like a very different dialect. So it was not really possible to communicate with them, which for me felt very strange because I was pretty fluent in Spanish by that point and could communicate freely. But we wanted to get out to this really beautiful point to camp for sunset. And it was really hot riding. I mean, hot desert riding. And I always wanted to be in full gear. So it was just melting. It was like riding in an oven. And the Wahira people didn't really believe in maintaining their motorcycles, it seemed. And so we just kept encountering like broken down motorcycle after broken down motorcycle. And most of the transportation there was like tiny motorcycles because that's all they could afford. And, you know, we stopped and helped everyone we came across. And if it was a family, we gave them, you know, some of our water. My ex fixed like several motorcycle chains that were broken, you know, fixed a couple of tires. And the thing that kept kind of bothering me was like, even if you don't speak someone's language, you can show gratitude in some way. And these people were very proud. And there was no like element of gratitude. And I started to get really annoyed because I'm like, we're going to miss sunset at this place that we're going to camp. And we were riding down this road finally, and it was going to be like the last like 2 hours of our ride that day. And it was washboard. So, you know, we had to keep up like over like 60 clicks, right? So that we weren't vibrating our teeth loose. And we see these guys with, you know, a motorcycle clearly has a flat tire. They have goats that they're bringing to slaughter, and the goats are like tucked into these bushes. And we had a helmet comm system. And, you know, I just said it and I'm like, oh, I know we're going to stop for them, but I'm like really like over this thing where these guys are just like not grateful at all. And I'm like, this is so annoying. And, you know, I'm like griping about this as we're coming and turning around and going back to them. And so we stop, and we're stopped for no more than 30 seconds. And my front tire just goes, whoosh. And I was just like, okay, holy, if that had happened going 60 kilometers an hour, we were in the middle of freaking nowhere. I mean, we were easily a 3-hour ride in a vehicle to the nearest hospital. Like it would have been really bad. And so it was that moment where I was just like, okay, you have to mentally click this switch off and just be so grateful that this was how things went today. And that these guys were stopped and needed help, because if you didn't turn around to help them, and maybe if you didn't stop with all these other people. So anyway, that's that story. And so it wound up being really cool because, you know, these men who typically just wouldn't even look at me and would definitely not show any gratitude were not only like super grateful, but they taught us how they changed their tires and fixed flats, and we showed them how we did ours, and we, you know, they gave them some patches and other stuff, but it wound up being a really cool experience. And we of course fixed their tire first, and we just thought, well, they've got goats to get to slaughter, like they're going to take off, but they didn't. They like stayed and like helped me like change my tire. And it was just a really cool cultural experience. And just, it's one of my favorite photos for that. It's not the greatest photo, but that's what it represents, is kind of just that, you know, that flow state of like, okay, if things aren't going right, pay attention sometimes, because, you know, they could go a lot worse.
Somebody or something is trying to tell you something. Slow down. Just, yeah.
It tells a great story. That picture tells a great story.
It is. It does.
Thanks.
And I've noticed, so it's been probably 20 years since I've been to Colombia, but I did notice there's big cultural difference there with the way that females are treated. I know in a lot of other countries, you know, I'm sure you've seen that throughout your travels throughout the globe, that, you know, they're not always treated as equals. They're not always regarded, you know, in a better light. So have you had any other experiences similar to that, or like something where?
Yeah, I mean, I think more broadly in Colombia, like at checkpoints and things like that, like I always felt really highly respected by the police and military who were running checkpoints. And that, you know, for me in any country, I was always kind of like, okay, what's this going to be like? And I would say the majority, for the most part, there was a lot of respect from men, which I really appreciated. Funny enough, it was female border agents sometimes who were like a little bit different.
Sassy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of, and especially in Canada, which was really funny to me. But I was like, really? But there were definitely some countries, like Panama being one of them, and then there were some parts of like Chile and Argentina where it was difficult to deal with men. Bolivia, but Bolivia is kind of just, it can be difficult for American travelers in general. I know some people who it's like their favorite country and they had no issues. And then other people are like, I hate Bolivia, but I will, I suffered through it because it's just such a beautiful country. But Bolivia was tough. But when you're the only person in your group who speaks their language and you happen to be female, it works out well a lot of the time. But
kind of changes the playing field a little bit there. Yeah.
So if there were border agents who didn't want to talk to me, I was like, well, good luck with them.
Yeah.
Really far.
Yeah. I can speak Spanish. They can't.
Yeah.
Haha.
Yeah.
They wouldn't even understand that you're asking for a bribe. So I don't know.
Good luck.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've heard that's kind of standard practice. Is that true, or is that just a nasty rumor?
Oh, the bribe thing?
Yeah.
I think it just depends. I think it's how you're traveling and what you do. So I think that in any given country, I think 99.9% of people are good and want you to have a good opinion of their country and want you to have a good time. And so for me, one of the things that, I do when I'm traveling is I just talk to locals constantly. And even if I don't speak the language, I'll pull out a map at a gas station and like point to roads and be like, where do you recommend going here? Because sometimes they'll tell you, the checkpoint on this road, don't go there. Checkpoint on this road is fine. Or don't go to this checkpoint after 5 o'clock at night, or, whatever it is. You should never travel at night anyway. But so talking with locals really worked, but it's also having time, at all border crossings that we would do. We would go first thing in the morning to cross. And the only time where I had a border agent ask for a bribe, it was later in the afternoon. And at that point they know you want to get across and they know you're on limited time because they close, the other part of the border closes. They're like, you're in our net now, we've caught you. So in that circumstance, it's just flexibility. And I basically, told the guy, I was like, and it was true, we didn't actually have any money to give him because we had changed back all of our money. But I was like, we don't have anything to give you. And I said, if we have to wait until tomorrow morning, we can do that. And he kept wanting to talk to the men and bringing them in to try to get them to pay a bribe. And I just kept telling her not. And so I said, listen, we're not paying your bribe unless you're going to stamp our passports right now. I said, I'm going to pull out my tent and pitch it in front of your office because that grass is really nice and flat. And he went like this and he kept our passports. And so I said, okay. And I walked outside. I started pulling the camping equipment off of my bike, and I had only spread our tarp. He came running out and threw the passports at us, and that was it. So,
love it.
Well,
Wow.
but it's flexibility and patience, and it's kind of like if you put yourself in a position where you can't be flexible or patient, then you can expect there might be a situation like that. And then there were a couple of other times where there were situations where people were trying to get a bribe. And it was another one of those flow situations. And one of the circumstances, because it would have been really scary, I think if we hadn't run across a guy we had traveled with who, we had taken a bunch of wrong turns, he got stuck at this, not a checkpoint. It was a rural village in Guatemala with locals blocking the road. But we encountered him right when we turned on that road and he was about to go the other direction. And he warned us about it, but they had, machetes and axes and a rope. And It was a little scary.
Crazy.
But, we kind of knew what they wanted. And again, we didn't pay the bribe. For me, that's one of the big things with travel is if you pay that bribe, you're making it like 10 times worse for the traveler.
For everybody else. Yeah.
So we just waited and waited, and we were like, we don't have money. We don't have any money. We gave them granola bars, figured in case they got hungry like you.
Yeah, I mean,
we gave them granola bars.
What I do with Arla.
It works.
Yeah, when she has her machete out, I give her a
It
granola
can be
bar.
bought.
100%.
Everybody knows
on you.
Oh yeah.
Feed me and we're good.
You must not know about her.
You must not know about me at all.
This is good to know for Mountain West.
Snacks
Let
and
me just
throw 'em out
say,
into my way.
let me just say without going into detail, it was a good thing Arla wasn't at P&W. Because she wouldn't have been as nice as
No, ma'am.
us other ladies. Yeah.
Mm-mm. My husband likes to say that my middle name should have been Frank. Mm-hmm.
Because you Frank all right.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. That's also really good to know.
Yeah. Mhm.
Oh, I got you. Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Hopefully everyone behaves.
For snacks, of
I think
course.
they will.
For snacks.
I think everybody will behave. I hope. So
I think it's a good crew, so
we're gonna have a good time.
it will.
Yes.
It'll be good. It'll be fun.
And please don't be hot. Please don't be hot. I went 2 years ago and it was so hot.
I'm really
well.
hoping we get a break, especially after we paid our dues at P&W. Can we just have like
Here, it was horrible.
a little bit
It
of a
wasn't
fresh-
Yeah, it wasn't terrible under the tents, like some of them, depending on which direction they were. But when you were out in that sun, it was just like, wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
But I do have to say, so far, that's my favorite venue.
We
I
all
love
love
the way
it.
that's laid out. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like
We
that
all
one.
love it. And it's like everyone loves it. I mean, it's like for a second year event.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we were all just kind of blown away.
Yeah.
It's performing really well. So yeah, it was good. And like, I don't know, Pacific Northwest, it's just like the community is great up there. People want to travel to that area and,
Mhm.
spend a week or two before or after the event, just kind of bopping around. So we all love it too. So I
Yeah.
think we're going to hopefully have better weather next year, see what we can do.
Yeah, it wasn't terrible. It was nice at night. It was really
Yeah.
nice at night. So
It was nice at night. And those sunsets went on forever.
Oh yeah, those were beautiful.
Yeah.
So I heard it gets a little dusty at Mountain West sometimes.
Yeah, but not where you guys will be.
Oh, good. Yay!
Problem solved.
Yeah,
Woohoo!
problem solved. You guys are going to be in the plushest, most beautiful grassy area at the venue. It's kind of this sweet little bowl spot. And it's just lovely. Like I love the Showcase DIY creator area at Mountain West because it's just where it should be. It's kind of the middle of the show. It's right next to the Oasis. So it's kind of that like happy hour vibe at night spills out into the Showcase DIY area. And you can just, grab your beverages and
Mhm.
chill and just, kind of be able to be part of the music and happy hour vibe or go back and still enjoy the music from your site. So it's pretty cool. And I'm really pumped for the education and the programming that you guys are bringing. I think it's going to be awesome.
We're
Women
very
want
excited.
this, and it's cool to be able to offer this, but it's also, we're now seeing with some of our newer events like, Mountain West and PNW, where there are just more women getting involved. I think there are a lot of spouses who are coming, who maybe weren't interested in the past or just figured out like there aren't going to be very many women there. There's not going to be anything for me to do. So it's really cool. And it's been awesome for me too. We were acquired by like a large event organization earlier this year. And it's been really cool to have their support with developing women's, female specific programming. So really excited about that too. And it'll just be good to,
Yeah.
beef
We'll
it up,
have some-
create a space. It'll be awesome.
It'll be really cool. We'll have some stuff going on where we're going to be, and then you'll have some other things throughout the expo with
Mhm.
other women doing different things. And I just think that's fantastic.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, me too. It's great. And it's just, I think when you can just break down barriers for people and show them how accessible this lifestyle is, how accessible, going out for, if it's like a first camping trip. I mean, there's a woman who came a few years ago, and I think it was her first camping trip was to Overland Expo with her husband and their daughter. And she came to like all the female specific classes. We had a bunch of self-defense classes that they both attended, and some kind of like situational awareness classes that, specifically were focused on, overlanding and kind of personal safety for women with that. And they loved it. And now they're like coming back, and they reached out about teaching. So I'm just like, this is fabulous. And this is how we create that ripple effect and strengthen. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So would you say the majority of your attendees for each expo are primarily new to overlanding in general, or do you think that a large portion of them are? Or?
Yeah, we're seeing a significant portion of them are very new to overlanding. So it depends on the event, but like one of our events, it's almost like 80%.
Wow.
So it's kind of funny because in one way we were talking about it and we're like, gosh, like what happened to, our solid crew of people who are like not new to the community. And then it was like, oh wait, like there were 30,000 people at Overland Expo West. Like the 20% who aren't new to overlanding, it's still a very large number of people. So it's kind of like, it's just the, this overlanding since the pandemic has just been something that I think has clicked for people. And, Misty, like with what you've, experienced with your husband, there are just so many ways now to make it work. And, one of the things I love, so we have, you're teaching the road schooling course. We also have the Hart family teaching world schooling class. Love them.
I love them.
And it's just like, it's showing people like you can do this differently. Like there are ways to do it. And Arla, I know you're teaching about, traveling with pets. And it's like, there are so many things that people create are allowed to be barriers when it comes to like, following their dreams or taking a little adventure. Like I can't because of my pet, or I can't because, my kid has school. And it's just like, when we show people that there's a different way, and it's people who are actually doing the different way are the ones doing the showing and the sharing and the inspiring. It just creates so many possibilities for folks. So I'm just
absolutely bummed. It's going to be so awesome. I'm really, really excited about the education stuff we're going to be doing.
Yeah, me too.
Me
too.
Speaking of pets, so the hot topic on, I don't know if you're still in the Pan American Facebook groups or whatever, but apparently Nicaragua has like banned people from bringing their pets in from Costa Rica or something. And now people are trying to figure out how to get around and what to do. And I was like, wow, that's something I didn't even, we don't travel with pets, but that's something that I was like, whoa, that would be.
I hadn't heard that. I'll have to look into that though. Oh,
I guess that like 3 weeks ago, that they had some kind of, I think there's some kind of parasite or bug or something that the animals are getting, and they're like cut it all off. But people are freaking out because they're like, okay, I was supposed to be out of this country and in this country now, and I've got pets. What do I do?
Oh, shoot.
So that's just something to be aware of. That.
That's tough. I mean, I don't know. That's one of those. That's a really hard one. I mean, I know people who planned multi-year trips based around where they could and couldn't take their dogs. So I can just imagine how devastating that has to be, especially if you're already en route and you're, in southern Mexico getting ready to fully launch. But shoot, thank you for letting me know.
Yeah. So I don't know if you know anybody that's currently traveling through Central America, but something to keep in mind for all of our listeners as well, if you're anticipating traveling through there. So I just was very surprised. I was like, wow, I didn't even like, I knew that some places, you have to quarantine a pet sometimes for a while, but just a straight up ban. I was surprised by that.
That's wild. I wonder how long it'll stay in place for. But
I'm not sure.
That's pretty rough.
Yeah.
Gosh.
Got to be able to adapt though, right? So you have to.
Ever changing.
You have to be able to adapt.
Sometimes part of adapting is smuggling, but
yeah. Well,
I said what I said. Yeah.
I won't go into that story. There is a story about that on there where the woman apparently got beaten because she tried to smuggle her pet, but I digress.
Oh,
yeah.
what?
So,
all right. Maybe never
I don't
mind
think
then.
that we're going to publicly recommend that.
No. Gosh.
Goodness.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Oh, that's wild.
I don't know. That was just what somebody had written on there. So who knows how accurate that is, but
wild.
Yeah.
Gosh.
Okay. I'm not. Yeah. No pets for me.
Noted.
I'm good. Pet free.
Yeah.
Right now. I love pets. I love animals very much. I got to hug on a whole bunch of kitty cats and puppy dogs at a friend's house last night, but I'm good. Yeah. It just brings a whole new dynamic to travel, especially, if you're traveling full time or you're traveling solo and,
Yeah.
You have to have somewhere to put an animal if they're not allowed inside a business or just, I'm not saying don't do it. I'm just saying there's a lot of things that people have to think about.
There are. I really, and it's also, with budgeting and whatnot. I mean, that's also, vet bills, fortunately, in most countries are not like they are here, but it is definitely something, that's a consideration for people. And I don't know, it's pretty tough.
Yeah.
More and more people are doing it, but I do wonder if that more and more people doing it will lead to more and more border closures, or not border closures, but restrictions like that. So.
And it's not just dogs I know people that travel with their cats.
Yeah.
They bring them as well. I mean, there's all kinds of things.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's something you may want to add to your little spiel, Arla, is just being aware of going on these different countries.
What countries will
websites and seeing if they have any kind of current, ban on bringing pets into the country.
Mm-hmm.
So something that I wouldn't even have really thought about until I just read that the other day. I was
actually. That's really interesting.
Yeah.
Always learning.
There's so much, and it's ever changing. I mean, that's one of the things we often struggle with like our roundtable discussions is like, okay, who can we find who has like recent experience and, can talk about things. And then it's like, all right, I have to start looking everything up and making sure it's all current. But fortunately, most of the things we discuss on roundtables are pretty high level because it's not even worth drilling down into how many copies of, X document are needed to pass Y border and all that stuff. That's what iOverlander's for. So.
Oh yeah. And I've been told that iOverlander is much more of a resource people rely on, like in Latin America, than kind of in the US. In the US, there's all kinds of like, oh, this wild camping is at a Walmart. This wild camping is, but, down in South America, especially, I've heard that it's been a valuable resource for a lot of people. So.
Yeah, it's pretty huge. It was when we were traveling, it was still kind of catching on, but it was still, you'd go to a border crossing and there would be like 3 or 4 entries that, someone, a few people had put, and they, the most up-to-date one was typically pretty helpful. But it was funny. I recently went back to Colombia and I was like, oh, I want to figure out where I stayed while I was here. And when I was there was like hardly anything in Cartagena. Like there was like hardly, a single pinpoint,
Oh, wow.
And I opened it up and I was like, oh my gosh, it's like, I'm like zooming in and it was flooded. And it's really incredible to see just, what a resource it's become for people, but it's also, there's so much now. But it was great. I mean, it definitely saved the day. We had a mechanical issue going into Medellin and, checked iOverlander from outside of the city, found a hotel that someone said had like a safe garage to park in, and literally coasted down this hill, like into this like garage of this hotel. So it was definitely, it's been a lifesaver and maybe not a lifesaver, but really helpful and quite a few.
A great resource. Yeah.
great resource.
Absolutely. Are there any other apps or websites or anything that you would recommend to international travelers?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on like what you're doing. You know, Park for Night can be really good depending on the country. But I think the thing that people really have to be aware of with whatever app is just making sure that you actually read the reviews. Because I remember, I don't know if it was iOverland or Park for Night, but found a spot, didn't have great connectivity. And so I was like, I'm just going to go there because like it, was highly rated or whatever. And pulled up to this spot, and this farmer came like running out of his house, waving his arms, and was like, we were going still down the road a pretty decent way. And I was kind of like, well, that's weird. And then got service and looked, and the most recent review was like, this is actually private property. And the farmer just changed his mind about it being okay for people to camp here. Like, don't even come down the road. And I was like,
oh, whoopsie.
So, yeah. So reading those reviews is really important, regardless of which app you're using. It's, crowdsourcing is a super awesome way to help one another in this community, but it's only as good as the information people are feeding back into it, and making sure that you're responsibly taking that information and following it. So
absolutely. I like the little caveat. They always say, iOverlander cannot verify whether this is camping is authorized here or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, that's, you got to kind of, I still, in the US especially, I look for public land only, just to be on the safe side. So
yeah, I agree. We're so fortunate here too. I mean, we're spoiled for options, unless you're on the East Coast, and then it's a little bit more difficult, but
yeah,
it's good. There are a lot of free camping spots in Florida though.
Yes, we're going to have to connect offline about this.
Yes. So I'll definitely fill you in. Yeah. Anyway, I mean, I'm just kidding. There's nothing. It's terrible state. Don't go there.
Beaches,
Yeah.
I'm actually super stoked. So we have BLM coming to Mountain West to do teach some classes for us, and
very cool.
Just a resource. So really excited about that, because BLM is, goodness gracious, I am so grateful that we live in a country and have these resources, but I'm always concerned, especially lately, when I'm pull up and I'm looking to camp somewhere, I'm just like, oh gosh, we're not going to have this for much longer if people keep behaving this way and trashing public spaces. So really excited that they're coming, and it'll be nice to have them there. Hopefully help spread the good word.
Yeah.
And I know I was the last roundtable I had for the day. It was with the Tread Lightly guys and the Overland Expo Foundation, and I know that they've got some cool stuff in the works to kind of bridge a little more education at the upcoming expos. So I'm excited about that as well, and especially for kids. So
yeah, very excited about that. Stay the Trail is also coming out, and they have some really fun kids education with remote control cars. And
awesome.
That'll be really cool. So I'm pumped to have them. So yeah, we're trying, it's the whole, the thing we struggle with is that the people who, attend those discussions and those roundtables are often the people who are already doing things the right way.
Right.
And so, one of the goals is to help educate those people how they can spread the word when they're out. Whether it's, how to approach someone who is leaving trash behind, or, not staying on the trail or whatever, and be able to have a meaningful conversation that doesn't escalate into conflict. So
right.
We're trying, but always open to suggestions. So
I know somehow we have to make saving our public land sexy, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know how you do that, but
I don't know. I literally have this conversation with Tread Lightly every year. I'm like, okay, so what sexy new titles are you coming up with?
Exactly. So. Yeah, that was one of our little comments we had at that roundtable was how do we make this sexy? How do we make people want to buy in on this?
Yeah.
Because sometimes you pull up to a campsite, like you said, and the fire pit's full of trash and there's random things. You're like, come on.
Yeah.
We went somewhere a couple weeks ago and we filled the group filled 2 13-gallon trash bags of trash, where there was like 7 vehicles. It was 7 vehicles. I think we were camping. There was just bottles and stuff everywhere, right next to the water. Pulled up, and the first thing I was like, really? Toilet paper, everything, just awful. But it was clean when we left. It was good.
Thank you.
Well, that's good. Yeah. I just wish more people would kind of jump on that bandwagon and do their part when they're out there. Yeah.
We've been doing some cleanups after Overland Expos in partnership with like Tread Lightly, and then they did one after PNW with Public Land Stewards of Bend, PLS Bend. And I mean, they just hauled tons of trash out, like tons. And it's insane to look at those numbers and just like, God, how did this all get here? You know, but they were saying that the good thing is, you know, I can't remember how many years they've been in action for now. I think they really kind of got going during COVID, or like ramped things up during COVID. And, but they were saying that they're finally getting to a point where they're looping back and hitting trails they've already cleaned up, and there's less trash. So they're like, okay, at least we're making headway. Like there's significantly less trash. It's not just that people are going back out and like, you know, dumping again. They're like recognizing, okay, like it's not a dumping ground anymore.
That's a good sign.
So, yeah, it is. Just got to keep moving that ball down the court. So
let's hope.
Okay,
so if people want to find you on social media, how can they locate you?
MyTicketToRide is still my Instagram handle. I post largely just when I travel overland. So I haven't done a ton of overland travel lately. But with the Rebelle coming up, there will be more. So I'm excited to start posting again and actually have, you know, interesting life things to post and not just my paddleboard sunrises, which are still, you know,
those are pretty awesome. Yeah.
But yeah, so I'm excited to kind of get back into it. I took a little break from social media after my last motorcycle trip and was just kind of like, this is fine. It's okay. But it's always nice to re-engage and get back in there. So yeah, at MyTicketToRide.
Awesome.
Big fan.
Hey, Arla, I see Sadie June's tail wagging behind
I know. She's got to be in here while Mommy's on the podcast, you know. She was snoring 10 minutes ago. Now she's pacing around my legs. I'm like, here's your tail over here, and it's over here.
She's a trip.
Traveling with pets, you know. Pets.
Is she your only one?
No, we got 2. We got Sadie and we got Diamond. So we have like
a
black lab, that's what she looks like, and then a long-haired dachshund.
Oh.
Yep.
Are they coming to Mountain West?
No, they'll stay with Daddy.
Okay, fine.
They'll stay home with Daddy and sit.
I'll find someone else's dog to love on then.
I will too. Trust me, because
there'll be lots of dogs. So
you sleep without Sadie. It's hard. Yeah, can I screen with you, Misty?
She's so
Come on.
Come on.
Anyway, I just wanted to point this out right here.
Yep. Our new logo.
It's our new logo. Our social media. We do have some new merch going to be coming out with a different. We're changing things up. Is what I'm saying.
Yes.
From this to something fresh.
I dig it.
Yeah, Arla and I had a meeting with Jared from Shop Overland Apparel a couple weeks ago, and then Joe and I just had dinner with him and Kayla last night, and we kind of laid everything out and drew some stuff for our channel and for the Lady Overlander Radio brand, and so we're kind of switching things up. Some exciting stuff coming.
Super exciting. Cool.
Yep.
Well, I'll look forward to that launch.
Yeah, and we will see you at Mountain West.
Can't wait.
And it's going to be a great time, and I'm super excited.
Me too. Thank you guys so much. I'm really excited about you both being there and everything you're going to teach and share. It'll be awesome to have that space anchored by you guys, and just creating that sense of community for women at the event is so important. And
we're glad to be a part of the team.
Oh yeah, and we had a good turnout at Pacific Northwest, and a lot of people were very engaged. Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
It was awesome.
I'm very excited. Well, thank you everyone so much for watching tonight, and you'll be able to catch this podcast tomorrow on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and all the other major podcast platforms. I need it's time for a night. I'm having a long day. Oh, sorry. Everyone have a great night. Good night.
Thanks so much for the chat, ladies. Bye.
Bye.